Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I am going to be presenting another Scrappy block to you. This is week number 23. There is a PDF attached of the block that I'm going to be presenting. This is one that I've been looking forward to presenting to you. It started out as just a little sketch of mine, and this is the block, a close-up of it. It's a Chevron Charms is what I'm calling it, and it makes up a beautiful table runner or a regular quilt. I always like to give sample ideas for quilts on the PDF. The second page of the PDF has this idea. There are 16 blocks here that you can make using that Chevron Charms design, and it's a great one to use up 2.5-inch squares. So I have dived into my 2.5-inch bins, and I have pulled lights and mediums and darks to create this block. So let me show you what I have pulled out. Okay, from my 2.5-inch bin, I have pulled out a stack of lights, and the PDF will let you know what you need, but of the lights, 2.5 inches, you need 12. So you need 12 lights, and you're going to need 16 of the mediums and the darks. Or you could even just call these brights, and that's what I have pulled here. So these are all 2.5-inch squares from my 2.5-inch bins. You also need to dive into your 3-inch bin and pull some squares out for the half square triangles. And you only need 4 of the lights and 4 of the brights. And these are the 3-inch squares that we'll be using to create a total of 8 half square triangles. And you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 half square triangles for this entire block, and the rest of it is all 2.5-inch squares. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make the half square triangle units, and you simply take the bright with the light, right sides together. So I'm going to stack them in pairs, right sides together. And you've seen me do this many times on all of my Scrappy blocks. This is how I like to use my Speedy Solutions squares to make half square triangles. And I'm simply going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. I'm just going to use a pencil here. And then I'm going to stitch a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides of that drawn line. I'll then cut on the drawn line and press to the dark, and then I will end up with 8 half square triangle units when I'm done. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do that, and I'll be right back. All right, so I have been cutting or squaring up each of these half square triangles to 2.5 inches. And so I've got the last 2 here to square up. I am using my Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. I'm using trimmer A, and I'm using the 2.5-inch marking. So I'm lining up this stitching line on the ruler to the stitching line on my half square triangle unit. So I'm lining that up there and trimming away the excess. And there isn't a whole lot that has to come away, but it's very important that that is removed. And then what I'll do is press, and I'm going to press to the dark. Now you could press these seam allowances open if you choose, that's fine. If you do that, make sure that your stitching length is a 2 or a 1.8. It should be a smaller stitch length just to secure that. But I will probably just press mine to the dark. So that's what I have done with each and every half square triangle. It's very important that they're all squared up to 2.5 inches. All right, so I have laid out my squares and my half square triangles here, and the block will finish at 12.5. Each of the squares will finish at 2 inches, so we have 6 wide, 6 long. And there's going to be a lot of seam allowances that will reduce this block in size. You'll see that I have a total of 8 half square triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's very simple to lay it out. Just follow the diagram on the picture. This is a great block to use up a lot of your 2.5-inch squares, and it will make a beautiful block for any season. Maybe you want to make it for, we've got March coming up here soon, so it would make a great St. Patty's block or a table runner. Valentine's, Christmas, Easter, July 4th, harvest when we're in the fall season. There's so many different ways you could use up your scrap stash. And if you have a lot of themed scraps, then this is a great way to use that as well. I am simply going to make a nice long runner, and I'm going to make a number of these blocks, maybe 3, maybe 5, depends on what I end up deciding to do. But a runner would be anywhere from 3 to 5 squares long, and then I'll add borders around it as well. But it's going to make a beautiful block, and I'm simply going to web this as I normally do, and I'll link a tutorial on how I web a block. But I'm simply going to start up in the left corner, and I am going to flip this square onto that one, start sewing, and then just keep coming on down all the way down these 2 columns. Then I'm going to add the 3rd column to that section, then I'll add the 4th column to that section, the 5th column to that section, and the 6th column to that section. That way, none of the pieces will get messed up. Everything stays oriented the way that it should, and it will go together beautifully. All right, so I have done the first 2 columns here, so they are sewn together, and I don't bother taking it to the ironing board and pressing at this point. I just finger pressed these. I'm going to press all of these in this direction, and then when I put the block together in the rows, I'll press those probably facing down. But just press everything to one direction or the other, and that will help to keep things organized on the back. You're going to find that some of the seam allowances are going to be facing the light, some of them are going to be facing the dark, and there's really no way around that because it's a very scrappy block. Now I've got these first 2 columns done. Now I'm going to start sewing the 3rd column, and I'm simply going to start at the top, grab this block, add it to this second row there, or second column. I had to move my camera so that you could actually see what I'm doing, but this block was right there, this square was right there, and I'm going to bring it up here and place it on top of the 3rd square in the 2nd column, and just keep on sewing. And here I've got the next square that I'm going to add. And so you've seen me web blocks before. I'll make sure to put a link below in the description box that has a video on how I web blocks. But I'm basically just going step by step here and grabbing the next square. Now I'm grabbing the last half square triangle and making sure that it's laying properly. And then I flip it over and sew it. So now I have 3 columns stitched. Let's take a look at those. To bring you down here a little bit so you can see. Okay, I'm going to open it up, and again I am going to just finger press each of these, and the seam is facing that direction. It's facing my right, my seam allowance. All right, there we go. So I have 3 columns webbed together. Now I'm going to work on column 4, and then column 5, and then column 6. And then I'll sew the rows together after that. So I'll do that in fast motion. When I'm done with this, I'll come back and show this to you. All right, so I now have the columns sewn together. Now I need to sew the rows together. And I'm just taking a look at it to make sure that my half square triangles are in there correctly and that everything looks as it should. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew it row by row. I will sew everything so that the top row is pressed this direction, and the second row is going to go the opposite direction. So each row will be pressed in the opposite direction, and I'm just going to make sure to nest all of the seams. Week number 23, my Chevron Charms square. This one is ready. It's part of my 52-week series of Scrappy blocks. If you don't have your scrap stash already cut, sorted, organized, and ready to go to use and make beautiful scrappy quilts, check out my books. I do have my Speedy Solutions Techniques book as well as my patterns book out on my website. I'll have links below to these books. I also will link the tutorial on how to go about cutting, sorting, organizing, and getting your scrap stash ready so that you can use it to make beautiful quilts. That's how I'm making all of these blocks for you. It's been really fun. I really enjoy presenting a new scrappy block to you every Monday. If you enjoy the content that I'm providing, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe so that you're getting notifications every week when I put out a new scrappy block or a new scrappy quilt pattern that I'm creating. I look forward to hearing comments from you all. I love to know what you're working on. You can even go out to my Facebook group page. It's Quilting with Lori, Scrap Up Your Stash, and you can join that group and be posting photos of different quilts and blocks and things that you're working on. It really is inspirational for all of the quilters to be able to be a part of that and to see that. So make sure you check that out. I'll have links below. And again, the PDF for this block will be attached as well. So make sure that you download that and save it. You'll want to use that for future. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. I've got some more scrappy projects coming up, so make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, then, happy quilting.